Hi there, it's Paulie here. In the heat. Mercy. With Mr. Snoots. Yay! So, we got a game that's kind of appropriate for the moment. This was a Kickstarter. It is a Borg. Punk is dead. And actually, this is sad to say, this is a pretty significant game for the current climate. Because this is about a world that's been wrecked by right-wing politics, war, and fascists. Largely based on the punk movement UK in the late 70s and 80s. No future, as you can see, but it's different from other Borgs. It comes with a message. Music is hope. This is not necessarily a nihilistic game, the way so many Borgs are. So, what is this? This is a game where there's been major disasters of nuclear war, conventional war, and magical maelstrom has just destroyed everything. And what we have left is the world of Britain, for which we have a little map here. It is split into, up in Scotland there's the jungle, island to state is unknown. What we got? Wales is the Whimsy, East Counties is the Merc, Home Counties is the Woe, Northland is the Grim, etc. They've each got their own thing. But the idea is, it's a punk apocalypse based on Borg. It is nicely kind of set up in different chapters, each of which are like track 1, track 2, track 3, and it keeps this punk things. Now, like all Borgs, it is a book and it is an art piece. The layout is designed to tell the story and the environment of the game as much as the actual written word inside it, which make these books very entertaining to read. It's a unique art style. I like it. It's an art style in itself. Okay, so welcome to the the ununited kingdom. You are basically punk rockers in this absolute smegging hell that the UK has become. Music is hope, and punk might save us all. Also, brief apologies, because there will be a lot of swear words in this, because it is a game about punk, after all. So, like I said, the feeling is that kind of late 70s through 80s British punk. No future. Everything's going to chaos. And there is, what are they calling it now? The kind of magical malaise that's coming over everything is just referred to as quantum fuckery. In this, you make a character. So, your character, you are going to be a musician of some sort. You pick your position. You might be a vocalist, you might be a bassist, you might be a guitarist. You could be keyboards. There are several different choices to make. Now, each of these will give you some choices. So, here's the guitarist. You will pick a specialty from one side. Usually you will roll. There'll be 1 to 4 or 1 to 6 specialties. And then on the other side, there's a random things of quantum fuckeries that your character can do. These are, both of them, special abilities that your character has. It will give you ability modifiers that your character has, and it will give you what kind of equipment you can be expected to have. So to make a character, what you're doing is you're simply picking up which type of archetype you're going to be, and you roll for starting equipment, which is random. Some of it could be weapons, some of it could be things. So to create a character, it doesn't say character creation. It just goes, so who the fuck do you think you are? This is how you roll it. Starting equipment, mate. Now get together and make your fucking band. You are a band. The band has a van. Every band has a van. This was never a world where you're going to have a real job. So you get different abilities. Now, the stats, the characteristics in this, there's which is punching, lifting, pushing, pulling. There is deft, which is being quicker than the other dude, dodging punches. Stage presence, which is used for performing. Tough, which is how much shit you can take. Yeet, which is throwing stuff or firing things. Streetwise, which is working out stuff and not getting mugged off. To generate each of these scores, you do roll 3d6, but it just gives you a numerical value between like -3 and +3. All you do is record the -3 and +3. You forget the 3d6 roll. For extra customization, you can roll 4d6 and chuck out the lowest dice. All depends what everyone wants to do. If you're doing a test, it's a simple d20 roll. You're getting bonuses depending on equipment, bonuses for characteristics and that sort of thing, and you're rolling against a difficulty rating. Given what the game is, your difficulty ratings range from piece of piss down to no fucking chance. Weapons are going to be things steak tenderizer, 8-ball and a sock. God, I think I've been to this club. Shovels, chainsaws, these sorts of things. Threads, you can get your jackets and studs and denims and all this sort of stuff. Hit points, start off with your tough and you add a d8 to it. You get healing for a good night's shut eye, take some pills, apply a dressing, have a bath, go to bed early, yeah, right. These sorts of things. The umpire is called the band manager, and he organises both gigs and the game. And this is where this thing differs from your normal game. There are a couple of choices, by the way. You can have hip hop in this. It doesn't quite mesh with punk, but it is in some ways a shared spirit and descendant of. So there are a string of hip hop character archetypes you can take as well. So you can get like breakers and mixers and all these sorts of things. Yep. Fuck the rules. So there are pretty simple combat rules in this. Kicking off. You roll to hit. You roll to defend. So your opponents will attack you and you roll to not take damage from them. So the umpire doesn't actually roll bad guys to hit you. You roll to avoid the damage. And damage is dealt at as hit points. If you roll a 1, that's a fuck up. Your weapon breaks. You can do double damage, shields break, and so on. You get extra damage if you roll max. At 0 hit points, your normal Borgs will say you're broken. Now check for this. This is like, no, 0 points is you're in deep shit. Now you roll on the deep shit table to see if you survive. I did tell you there'd be swearing here. But songwriting performance and performances are at the core of this. So what they've done is they've set up an environment. London is kind of a corporate environment. There is an underground there, and there is like a series of vampire corporate types. Think a little bit like the underground bad guys in something like the Resident Evil films, but these guys are actually vampires, like the corporate guys out of Blade. They have a series of followers who let them feed on them in the hope that they might become one of the vampires one day, might be chosen to turn. They have their brute squads of guys with clubs and shotguns there to try and enforce their will, but they are of course locked in their own struggles against each other. That's all around the London area. They are there, but there is also a substantial kind of underground population, literally in the undergrounds. And that's where these underground clubs are, which are often leading the fight against all of these vampires and so on. You're trying to build spirit to fight against the man. That's what punk is. And that's what you do. There are other areas which are industrially sort of areas. I think they turned the Midlands into basically Mad Maxville. There are two competing bunch of peoples. Ones are Mad Max style guys who ride around on all kinds of motorized hell. dressed in punk gear and waving baseball bats wrapped with barbed wire and whatever, and all, but they're fought by people who ride beasts instead of machines, both hating each other, and again there are warlords and so on in the area, but again there's these different leaders and these different citadels and so on there which are setting everyone at each other's throats. Again, maybe punk can bring the message home, enemies not each other, the enemies the toffs, the enemies are the ones that are trying to divide you. For those who saw The Young Ones, if the kids are united, we will never be divided, right? How well too, right, kids? Wales is way more dark and mystical. There's literally this horrific sorcerer queen who again is extending her power, and she's got these people locked into this horrible magical world. Up in Scotland it is like a weird overrun natural environment where horrifying stag folk and so on roam around, and where the environment can kill you. But your performances are important, so you can get creativity points, and you can use creativity points to enhance any of your personal roles. But the group also gets group creativity points, and you can draw on those to affect any of your roles, to avoid death, all sorts of things. But you have to ask the rest of the band if it's okay if you draw on the group creativity points for any of your roles. How do you get creativity points, you may ask? Oh, I'm glad you asked. You do gigs. There is a wonderful section which is just get in the fucking van, which is how to do gigs. You try and organise gigs in different places, and this is what's going to have you roaming around this terrain and into these people and places and dealing with these horrible societies. But you will try and make a repertoire of songs. You actually have a little system here for writing them, and you can put individual creativity points into trying to write songs, and you make these songs about songwriting for idiots, how to actually do it. But you will make a repertoire which you will work on as part of the role play, and as you put personal creativity points into the different roles, you will end up with songs that give you bonuses on your performance roles. When it's time to do a gig, you roll on a how was the gig roll. So everyone rolls on their stage presence, and the best stage presence roll governs how well the gig went, but there are bonuses for how well your songs were created. That does give you a bonus to how well your gig goes. So if you come out with a powerful repertoire, you're going to do well. Obviously some crowds are going to be harder than others, which will give you a negative. But if you have a very successful gig, you will gain group creativity points. You will also gain creativity points for critical hits and all sorts of things. You can only ever have a max of 5, and but it's the currency of the game, and you only get it through doing gigs. But there's another important thing in this. Borgs are usually completely nihilistic. You're completely screwed. The world is going to go to pieces. It's just inevitable that you will die. I'm not quite sure why everyone felt at this exact point in the world people needed something that nihilistic, but what the hell. In this one we've got pirate radio. Somewhere offshore there is a pirate radio station, and you can get stuff played there, and that's a bonus. But there are also emergency broadcasts come from pirate radio. What you do is you roll a D1, you choose the dice. The umpire chooses the dice. Can be a D100, can be D2, depends on how long a game you want to run. At the start of each day you roll a dice. On a 1, an emergency broadcast comes in. There are 7 different stages of emergency broadcast, and each of these changes the way things happen in the world. So what have we got? So the first one, battle come down. In the west, the old king's risen. Black hole sun zealots ride out to issue a proclamation that the new court's been raised, etc., etc. Things happen in these different counties. The next one is the wheat's growing thin, blights have happened in the fern juggles, so starvation is starting to happen. Broadcast 3, Ice Age is coming, so everything suddenly starts freezing, and engines stop running is the next one, where anything mechanical starts breaking down. There's nothing working anymore. Broadcast 5, Zombies of Death. So the bodies of all of those who've died in the wars start clawing out of the ground, and you've got mass zombie plague appearing everywhere. Broadcast number 6, Meltdown Expected. So the Sangrata is close. And basically on the last one, Black Hole Sun appears and just like sucks up everything. That's a normal progression of one of these Borgs. But in this one, music is hope. So if you play 3 epic gigs, then the next time an emergency broadcast is rolled, it doesn't happen. So your music extends the life of the world. And you can also just put in a thing that you can actually claw it back. Continuous gigs and really spectacular gigs might win this one, is I think the way it's supposed to be played. Music in this is hope. So the destruction of the world is not written. You can claw it backwards. And that's kind of why I think this is a pretty important game for right now, given the shit that's going on. Now, there's a lovely set of bad guys in this. I'll get in a van. As you're travelling, there's what are journeys like to places. What do you find on the road? What are your troubles on the road? What's going to happen? Breakdowns. I'm going to need a part. He's knackered. Tow job. Mail your friggin' failure. Roadkill. Hijackers. Breakdown. Sod it. All you fascists are bound to lose. Section 4. Music is going to win it. So there's the LCV, London Corporate Vampires. Bastards, which is just like vampiric pricks. There's Hellhounds, the first wave, which are the zombies that come clawing out of the ground. In the Welsh area, there's Gert Worms. He's the stag guys that are wandering around in the North. Horrendous vicious unicorns. Some great kind of splitters. Equesti punks. The petrol heads that all come from the Mad Max areas. Root blights, cyborg creatures, wobots, get it? The undead and the undead queen, Black Hole Sun zealots, who are basically end of the world cultists. Good stuff, good times. Loot or shopping table. Randomizers for coming up with band names if you're too lazy, a bunch of pricks to come up with your own name, so you roll. What do you got? We've got the trapped the trapped criminals. We've got the damaged puppies. No, what are we? We're the ruthless surgery. Fair enough. There are additional things that you can roll for with characters that they've got in the back as options. What's your trauma? What teenage traumas, what background traumas have you been through? And they give you character things. You might be a pyromaniac. You possess something that a lot of bastards want. Stealing people's shit is your drug. Mummy or daddy were actually London corporate vampires. Hard work is not in your nature. So you can make these characters really well. There's a whole section on a major London Underground club, the Epoxy Club, with who runs it, what gigs there are, what kind of stuff they're looking for, what happens, random underground encounters as you're going there and exploring around. There is a adventure in here going into a London corporate vampire lair. So there is one adventure in here. Sort of rather sweet. A lot of their backers got photos in here. I didn't put mine in just because I couldn't be stuffed. And the inside covers have all of your charts and tables. Look, this is a fun game. Like many Borgs, it's not an absolute massive complete game. I mean, look at the size of it. It gives you characters, it gives you an environment, it gives you a theme, it gives you something that's driving the game along with that increasing doom. In this case, it gives you something you can do about the doom. And it gives you generalized maps of areas with their flavor, their feel, with their foes, with what's going on there. So don't look to these kind of games for a 500-page history and, you know, a bestiary of 300 monsters. No, it's way more immediate and fun than that. Single game, fine. You can play a campaign of this, definitely, particularly with that thing where you're going to be making repertoire and the thing is, the game is there for you to expand on and you to make. If you want to do a campaign of this and you want to bring in something where you're going to house rule it, you can't just sit there and make a repertoire. Things have to happen to you, and then that's where the songs come from. So you have to adventure, and only at the end of an adventure can you try coming up with like new work. And you can have different themes attached to it, and maybe certain themes in certain areas will help turn things around a lot more. It's there for you to house rule and make your own. So, punk is dead. Parental advisory, mate. Contains a lot of effing and jeffing. It's a good piece of work. It's actually my favourite of the Mork Borg so far. I reviewed Pirate Borg, which I do like because it had lots of fun artwork and is fun, but this one has kind of a grunge quality to it, but it is fighting back against the man, and so it's got an edge to it that I haven't seen in other Borgs, and that's what I've enjoyed about it. Well worth the purchase, and like I've said, all of these Borg style books are adventures in page layout as an art design, and storytelling through art as much as through the written word. So as just simply an art piece to enjoy, they absolutely have value. So anyway, go check it out. It really is worthwhile, and it ain't expensive. I'm not going to put a safety pin through Mr. Snoot's ears because they're delicate, but we are going to give it a shot. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. Hard times out there at the moment, so look after your personal safety, but speaking as an old 80s punk, take no shit from anybody. Music is hope, and fascists die.